Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2,000 subscriber Q&A special on the channel. I sent out a request to many of you on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, the YouTube community page, and even some friends and family via text messages to get questions to answer during the Q&A. This is going to be the third Q&A that I've done on the channel. I love doing Q&As. They're so much fun. Love getting questions from you guys, and we got some awesome questions for today's video. So let's go ahead and jump right in. What's up, everybody? Somewhere hidden in this video is my corgi Link, and if you can find him, I want you to leave a comment down below with the timestamp and his exact location. Good luck. On to the video. Now, before we jump into the questions and answers, I want to say to everybody that watches the channel, likes the video, shares the videos, interacts with me in any way, whether through social media or YouTube, anyone that supports the channel, however you support the channel, I want to say thank you for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me, and I could not have reached 2,000 subscribers without you guys. Now, 2,000 subscribers may not sound like a lot, but to me, that's a lot of subscribers. And that's really hard to do on YouTube unless you get lucky and go viral. So I'm very proud of that. And my next major goal is going to be 5,000. So let's do it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. And the first question comes from Twitter user AJ Cerna. That's my friend Albert Cerna, who was also on the set of the Game Chasers movie. Not at the same time that I was, but he was a little bit earlier than I was. And here's his question. What equipment and editing software do you use for your videos? Excellent production. Well, first off, AJ, thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate that. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on all of the equipment that I use for my videos, because I actually did a video on that back in October 2020. I did a massive behind the scenes video for a RetroWolf88 production, RetroWolf88 video, and in that video I detail all of the equipment, all of the gear that I use. I talk about some of the different techniques that I use. I talk about how I produce a video from start to finish. I don't really get into the editing a whole lot, but the editing software that me and my nephew use is Cyberlink Power Director. I find that to be a really good editing software. It has a lot of nice features. It's pretty easy to use. And for me, at least, it doesn't crash a whole lot. I know it does crash for my nephew, but I think that's just because his computer's not on a solid state drive. But yeah, if anybody out there wants to know what equipment I use, how I make my videos, I'll leave a link to that behind the scenes footage video in the description down below. I highly encourage you to check it out. And I mean, I'm no expert, but maybe you can learn a few things from that video. That was the intention of that video, to try to teach a few things and help people out with YouTube stuff. Next question is through the YouTube community page, and it is from Anthony's Adventures. And his question is, what are your new collecting goals for 2021? That is a great question, Anthony, and I'm glad that you asked that, because I actually have a video coming out in June, or well, actually I think it's July. I have a video coming out in July that's kind of on that very topic. But basically, a few of my big collecting goals for 2021. Well, first off, I'm going to scale back my collection. I'm going to trim down my collection. There are a lot of games, recently I realized there are a lot of games in my collection that I just have no interest in playing. Games that I don't really care about, games that I'll probably never play. And those are the games that I'm going to trim out of my collection. I'm going to sell those games, and going forward, at least for now, I'm only going to collect games that I will actually play. Games that I can actually sit down and enjoy, games that I care about, games that mean something to me, which will enable me to kind of focus in my collecting habits a little bit more and not just buy anything and everything. Now, I will not be scaling down the Gamecube collection. I completed the Gamecube collection. I would be crazy to get rid of any games from my Gamecube collection, so I'm keeping my Gamecube collection, but every other console collection in my game room, I will be scaling down. And by the way, if you guys hear any strange noises in the background, you're probably hearing my corgi Link. You can kind of see his butt. It's kind of hard to do this, but you can kind of see his butt right there with his little diaper on. He's chewing on a ball right now, so you might hear some of those noises in the background. And by the way, if you do see Link with his diaper on, that is not the hidden link in today's video, so keep searching. Anyways, Anthony, yeah, I'm going to scale back my collection. And there's a few consoles that I would like to start getting more games for, like the Sega Genesis, Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS. Those are all consoles I would like to acquire some more games for to add to the collection. And the final collecting goal for 2021 is to get more manuals for my GameCube collection. Because even though I do have every single game, I don't have every single manual for every single GameCube game. There's less than 100 GameCube games I still need manuals for. So that's something I'm kind of still working towards. There's a few heavy hitters that's going to be difficult to get manuals for, but I'll figure it out eventually. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Los from The Big Retro Show. Highly encourage you guys to check out The Big Retro Show. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description down below. His question is, how much room do you have left for your games? Well, Los, I'm pretty much maxed out on space, dude. I really don't have any more room for... There's a few spots here and there that I could squeeze some games in, but not much. So that kind of goes back to the answer of the last question, in that I plan on trimming down my collection. And of course, as I trim down my collection, that's going to open up more space for me to add games that I will actually play to my collection. Next question comes from Instagram user Boof Nation. Question is, what is Mom's, talking about Mama Retro, favorite NES game? You know, I haven't really asked her, but when I sit down and think about the NES games that she has played, the game that I believe she had the most fun with was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the NES, because you know what? She actually did pretty damn good, and she was really getting into the game. She was getting pretty violent. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be her favorite NES game if I were to ask her. And if you missed the Mike Tyson Mama Retro video, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. And also don't forget, Mama Retro has her own YouTube channel now. Highly encourage you to go check that out and subscribe. I'm going to be releasing the entire backlog of Mama Retro content on the YouTube channel, re-edited, and then we'll get to some new content. I'll leave a link to the Mama Retro YouTube channel in the description down below. Check it out, and if you like Mama Retro, hit that subscribe button. Next question. Next question is through the YouTube community page, and it comes from Brandon DeLeon. I hope I pronounced your last name right. The question is, are you planning on doing any walkthroughs of your favorite games? The answer to that, Brandon, would be no. I don't really... Walkthrough videos, they're not really my thing as far as making them, and they don't really fit on my channel. It would be really weird if I just released a random walkthrough video of a video game on my channel. They just don't really fit in with my content. So I have no plans for walkthrough videos, and it's just not something that really interests me. Next question comes from Twitter, and it comes from Twitter user Captain Frugal. And his question is there a game that almost made you quit gaming? And that's a great question, Captain Frugal, and the answer to that question is Auto Modelista. This game is a fucking piece of shit game. It has some good qualities, don't get me wrong. I do like the art style. I do like the presentation. I like some of the customization. But the controls absolutely kill it. When I played this game for an episode of Gamecube Gallery, which I'll leave a link to that in the description down below, it's my most disliked episode of Gamecube Gallery because the entire Auto Modelista fan base of like 10 people came after me. It was pretty funny in the comments they came after me. Anyways, the controls in this game are awful, just awful, and it ruins the whole game, and it was torture playing this game for an episode of Gamecube Gallery. All joking aside, the real answer to your question is no. There's never really been a game that's made me want to quit gaming, and there probably never will be, because I just love video games too much. I wouldn't let a single game ruin my gaming experience as a whole and make me not want to play games anymore. But fuck this game. Next question comes to us from Twitter user CS Jorda, Cass, my friend Cass, and she has a couple of different questions. Favorite Zelda game and favorite gaming soundtrack. You know, my answer to both of these might surprise a lot of people. And this first answer is probably a controversial answer, but my favorite Zelda game is without a doubt Zelda Breath of the Wild. And there's going to be a lot of people that are probably moaning and groaning right now at that selection. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I love all the other Zelda games. Love them. Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, some of my favorite games of all time, but The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is, in my opinion, a damn near masterpiece. It is almost gaming perfection, and I loved every second of it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start playing through it again soon for a second time in preparation for Breath of the Wild 2. Now, as far as my favorite gaming soundtrack goes, I would have to say Super Mario Bros. 3. And it may just be nostalgia. Well, no, I take that back. It's not just nostalgia. That game has some fucking fantastic music. And it's music I can listen to this day. I just love the freaking chip tunes in that game. They're so freaking good, so well composed, so catchy, and every time I hear them, it brings back childhood memories. And of course, Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of my favorite games, and the music, I just can't get enough of it. So I would say that's probably one of my favorite video game soundtracks, among others, of course. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Chronic Spartan Gaming, and I will leave a link to Chronic Spartan Gaming's YouTube channel in the description down below. He has an awesome channel. Go check it out. And he asks a couple of pretty difficult questions. First question he asks, no more new video games or consoles will ever be made again unless you give up your GameCube collection. What do you do? Damn, Chronic Spartan. That's harsh, man. Well, I'd have to give up my GameCube collection because at the end of the day, I'm a gamer first and a collector second. And the thought of never having any new game consoles, which means no more new video games more than likely, is a scary thought, and it would be very selfish to everybody out there that enjoys video games. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure if I gave up my GameCube collection and created no more game consoles for the rest of eternity, I'm pretty sure somebody would have me assassinated. And Chronic Spartan's next question is, if you had to swap your GameCube collection for another collection, what would it be? That's a great question. And, you know, as I sat and thought about it, I think the answer to that question would be the Nintendo DS/3DS. I'm lumping those two together. And the reason for that is, for both the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo 3DS, both of those handhelds have fantastic library of games. There are a shitload, hundreds and hundreds of amazing games across both of those consoles, and I've experienced only a fraction of those games. So I would love to have that complete set so that I could start to explore those libraries. And that kind of goes back to an answer to a previous question where the Nintendo DS and 3DS are consoles I would like to start collecting more for, because there's a lot of badass games that I've never got to experience. Next question's through the YouTube community page. It comes from YouTube profile David Hill. And his question is, what are your top 5 favorite games of all time? So David, this is not a question that I can really answer. I can't truly give you my top 5 favorite games of all time. It's just, I can't do it. I can't. But what I can do is tell you 5 of my favorite games of all time, but they're in no particular order, and they're not necessarily my top 5 games of all time. So I'm just going to kind of call these off here. So The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Bros. 3, Last of Us 1 and 2, I'm kind of lumping those two games together, God of War, that would be the newer one that released on the PlayStation 4, and Resident Evil 4. And like I said, those are not my top 5 favorite games of all time, but they're definitely 5 of my favorite games of all time. So I can't give a top 5. I can't do it. Next question comes from Discord, and it comes from my good friend Doug, aka Existing Phoenix. He actually has 4 questions. First question is, what is the most you've paid for a single video game? I think the most I paid for a single video game would be, I'm looking at it right now, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker / Metroid Prime dual pack, combo pack on the GameCube. I think I paid like $250 to $300 for that on eBay complete. So that's probably about the most I've spent on a single video game. And his next question is, what is the lowest you've paid for a single rare and expensive video game? I think the lowest I've paid for a single rare and expensive video game would be less than $1 for Metal Storm on the NES. That's over $100 cartridge, or at least it was at the time that I got it, and I paid less than $1. As a matter of fact, I did a video on the game collection that I bought that came in, and if anybody's interested, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. Basically, I bought a guy's entire game collection for basically well below retail value. He knew what the stuff was worth. He just had to get rid of it. Doug's next question is, what single item in your collection are you the most proud of? I would say the single item in my collection I'm the most proud of would be my sealed Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller for the GameCube. That is such a badass controller. And the fact that I have it sealed in the awesome packaging that it comes in is really awesome, and I have no plans to open it. I am going to buy a loose one at some point so that I can actually use it, but that one is part of the collection and it's staying sealed. And Doug's final question is, what game for GameCube Gallery, if any, are you dreading doing the most? It's funny you ask that, Doug. Every now and then I'll let my nephew, who is my editor, he edits the videos, he's my partner on the YouTube channel, for those of you who don't know. But every now and then I'll let him pick a game for GameCube Gallery. The last one that he picked was Tarzan Untamed, Disney's Tarzan Untamed. But recently I told him to pick another one, and he picked Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. And I'm dreading doing that game for GameCube Gallery. And not because it's a bad game. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm going to have to record myself dancing around on the dance pad while playing the game. And I don't know, there's just something about that sounds a little embarrassing. And that video is going to be coming sometime this year, so stay tuned for that. Next question comes from Twitter, and it comes from GameCube Galaxy, who, by the way, is a newer YouTube channel. He does all GameCube content. Awesome channel, awesome videos. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description down below. If you love the GameCube, you got to check out GameCube Galaxy because he's doing some badass stuff over on his channel. His question, he actually has a couple of different questions. What was your drive to start the channel? So my drive to start the channel was basically my collection. Well, that's not entirely true. I've always wanted to dip my toes in YouTube, and I have a couple of times in the past unsuccessfully. But when I acquired this game collection, I said to myself, you know what? I've got this massive game collection. I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. So and I'm a huge gamer. I love video games. So, I mean, it was just a no-brainer. So really, it was my collection that kind of inspired me to get back into YouTube heavily and start the channel. GameCube Gallery's next question is, did you ever stress over pushing consistent content out, or did you just go at your own pace? Yeah, you know, I did stress. It was pretty stressful because the first couple of years of the YouTube channel, if not longer than that, we were consistently putting out 2 videos a week, sometimes even more. And it was a very consistent schedule, same days, same times. And that did start to get a little stressful. You know, it was a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, trying to maintain 2 quality videos per week. I never really went at my own pace, but now we made the decision to drop down to 1 video per week, and we're going to make that video as high quality as we possibly can, increase the production values, make the content the best that we can possibly make it. And that new schedule, of course, is every Sunday at 3 p.m. a new video will drop on my channel. Now, every now and then there might be an extra video that drops. It just depends on what's going on. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Twitter user Geeky Nate, who also has a YouTube channel I will link to in the description down below. And Geeky Nate's question is there a game you absolutely will never have Mama Retro play due to fear for your life? That's a great question. And, you know, to be honest with you, the answer to that is no. I mean, pretty much any game is on the table for Mama Retro to play, because the crazier the game, the more difficult the game, the more entertaining the Mama Retro video is going to be. And it's worth risking my life over. Next question comes from Instagram user Goatee Josh, who is a good friend of mine, and he has an awesome Instagram account if you want to check that out. He asks a pretty difficult question. His question is, you have the power to resurrect a forgotten game series that is absolutely begging for a new entry to the critically acclaimed series. The catch is that in order to do this, you have to cancel an ongoing gaming series you absolutely love, and they'll never be able to make any additional games ever. Which series do you resurrect, and which beloved ongoing series do you cancel? Okay, so the game series that I believe I'm going to resurrect is the Golden Sun series. Now, the last game that we got in the Golden Sun series, which is a badass RPG series, the last game that we got, I believe, was on the Nintendo DS. I never played that one, but I have played through the 2 Golden Sun games on the Game Boy Advance multiple times, and they are a couple of my favorite RPG games of all time. The story's great, the characters are great, the combat system is great, the world's fun to explore, and there's a lot of fantastic puzzles in the game. That game had some amazing gameplay mechanics, and I love it, and I would love to see that series come back in some form or fashion. Now, the gaming series that I would cancel to make this happen is probably going to shock a lot of you, and I'll explain why. I would have to go with the Fallout series. And the reason, now look, I absolutely love the Fallout series. Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas are, I mean, I just love them. I love those games. I can play those games anytime. I can play them repeatedly and still have a blast. But with Fallout 76, I kind of lost a little bit of faith in Bethesda with the Fallout series. And if we do ever get a Fallout 5 or a game like Fallout New Vegas, I just don't really have faith in Bethesda to make it a great game anymore. Maybe that will change when they release Starfield and the new Elder Scrolls game. Maybe then, because, I mean, let's face it, if we're going to get a new Fallout game, a true new Fallout game, it's not going to be until after the Elder Scrolls. So it's going to be many, many, many years from now. So, you know, my faith may get restored, but at the time, I just don't really have much faith in them to do that. So I would have to say I would cancel the Fallout series. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Twitter user HDE_plays_games. And their question is, when you get up in the morning, what goes on first? Socks or trousers? Well, the answer to that, my friend, is very simple. Neither. I don't wear them ever. Next question comes from Discord. It comes from Isaac23P, who is a great supporter of the channel. And his question is, what's the video you are most proud of? I would say there's 2 videos I'm most proud of. First is, well, the first video I've ever released is one of the videos I'm the most proud of. And not because it's a good video, because it's not a good video. It's pretty damn bad if I'm being honest. But it was the first video I ever released on the YouTube channel. And even though it was bad, it represents me taking that first big step to start a YouTube channel. So because of that, it is one of the videos that I'm most proud of. Now, the other video that I'm probably the most proud of is the collector interview that I did with my friend Josh, Goatee Josh, who asked a question earlier. I'll leave a link to that interview in the description down below if you want to check it out, as well as his game room tour. He has a badass game room, one of the coolest I've ever seen, as a matter of fact. But that interview is probably one that I'm the most proud of because it, from a production standpoint, I think it's one of the best videos I've ever made. I tried to make it a very cinematic style interview. So I tried to really get that nice cinematic camera angle, get that cinematic lighting. I put a lot of work into that video and making it look like a true cinematic interview. And I feel like I did pretty good. There's a few things that I could do a little bit better, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's very high quality in my opinion. So I'm very proud of that video. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Twitter user Jorgogo Art. That's Jorgogo. He has a YouTube channel as well. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. And Jorgogo's question is, how did you come up with your mascot? I'm assuming you're talking about the wolf in the GameCube chair and other images, other art images for the channel. Well, I mean, RetroWolf88. So I thought it would be pretty badass to have a character that's a wolf that plays video games. So that's kind of where that came from. Now, the unfortunate side effect of that is I think that art might have attracted some furries to the channel. And not that there's anything wrong with furries. I have nothing against furries. But I don't want people thinking that I'm a furry because I'm not. I'm just not into that kind of thing. But I think furries kind of like my, I think they kind of like my wolf art. Which is not my art, by the way. My artist is very talented, though, the artist that I hired, and I'll leave a link to his social media in the description down below in case you ever want to hire him to do some art for your YouTube channel or whatever you want art for. He did a fantastic job. But yeah, I think furries kind of like my little wolf. Next question comes from a really good friend of mine via a text message. He has a couple of different questions. His question is how you got the collection up so fast and how you find the time with school and work to make videos. Well, really how I built my collection as fast as I did is by buying game lots and game collections for well below retail value, keeping what I want in the collection, selling the rest to pay myself back and make a little bit of profit, and then taking that profit and putting it back into the collection, rinse and repeat the cycle. That's the primary way I built my collection so fast, is by buying and reselling game lots and things like that. Now, as far as how I find the time to make videos, while I'm not in school anymore, I am taking an indefinite break from school. I was going for a degree in software development, but I decided to put that on hiatus for many different reasons that I'm not going to get into. But how I find the time to make videos with everything else I got going on in life, I don't know. I just work my ass off, man. I'm constantly working on something. And when I'm not working on something, I'm sitting down and playing a game, or I'm sitting down and watching a TV show or a movie, or doing one of the many of life's responsibilities you have to take care of. But I don't know. I just work nonstop. I try to make the most efficient use of my time possible. Joseph's next question is, what inspired you to make the videos and collect? I kind of talked about what inspired me to make the videos earlier in an earlier question, but what inspired me to collect, it's actually my nephew's fault. I was talking to my nephew one day and I was like, hey, I would like to kind of start getting the Gamecube games that I had again when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, kind of get those Gamecube games back and rebuild that collection. And he was like, oh, I've got a Gamecube, I'll give you. So he gave me a Gamecube. Then I went down to my local retro game store and I bought pretty much every Gamecube game they had in the store that I had when I was younger. And then I wanted to do the same thing for NES. So I did the same thing for NES. I bought all the NES games I had when I was younger. And it just kind of freaking went from there, man. You know how it goes. Once I started, I couldn't stop. It's very addicting. I have a problem. Please send help. And Joseph's last question is Dragon Quest IV on NES worth buying? I'm assuming you're talking about Dragon Warrior 4, and the answer is no. And that's probably going to piss some people off. But I don't like that game. Sorry. Next up, we have several questions through Discord from a very good supporter of the channel, Labowie Bass Music. Her name is Laura. Good friend, good supporter of the channel. And she has quite a few questions. First question is, how's your weekly schedule? I'm assuming you're talking about the YouTube schedule. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm assuming. I've dropped my videos down to one video per week, as I said earlier, and they're going to be dropping on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Her next question is, how do you manage to play the games while having a job and starting a business? I know you mentioned the Switch Lite, but how do you do it? Honestly, I just squeeze in video game playing time whenever I can, whenever I have a free moment here and there. The Switch definitely helps a lot with allowing me to be able to play video games, just because of it being portable and being, you know, easy to start and stop the console. But yeah, I just have to squeeze it in as much as I can. Sometimes I sacrifice a little bit of sleep to play some games. It really just depends. But yeah, I make the most efficient use of my time possible and try to just squeeze in the gameplay when I can. Laura's next question is, can you show some of your music interests / favorite bands? I like a wide variety of music. I'm not really, the two music genres really that I'm not into, that I don't really like all that much, is country and rap. But at the same time, there is some rap I do like and there's some country I do like, but it's very rare that I find any rap or country that I like. But I really love blues, I love flamenco, I love classical, anything instrumental pretty much I love. Jazz, but rock of course, but of course my favorite genre of music is heavy metal. I'm a metalhead, I've always been a metalhead, and I will always be a metalhead. Now with that being said, Some of my favorite bands are Metallica, Annihilator, Machine Head, Devil Driver. These are all metal bands, of course. Another one of my favorite bands is Days of the New. Now, they're not metal, they're rock. But Days of the New has one of my favorite musicians of all time, which is Travis Meeks. But, I mean, I could keep naming off bands, honestly. I have a lot of favorite bands, but I'm going to just stop it at that. But yeah, metal is my favorite genre, but I like a little bit of everything, and just a smidge of rap and just a smidge of country. Laura's next question is, can you play some guitar for us? 30 seconds is fine. And believe me, I would love to do that. The problem is, I'm extremely out of practice. Extremely out of practice, so it wouldn't be that great. I don't even have my calluses anymore on my fretting hands, so yeah. I've been toying around with some ideas for some future guitar related content in relation to video games on the channel, but I'm not 100% sure. But what I will do, Laura, what I will do, about 10 years ago, actually over 10 years ago now, I did a couple of covers, guitar covers, and I put them on YouTube. I'll leave a link to those videos in the description down below, and I'll also insert about a 30-second clip of some of me playing guitar from those videos. You're going to see a much younger me, because it was over 10 years ago, like I said, so I would have been in my early 20s, maybe even 20. Hell, I don't know. But I'll go ahead and throw that in right now. And Laura's final question is, what are your 5 favorite Switch games so far? I'm going to stick with Nintendo Switch exclusive games to answer this question. And the answers are Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Paper Mario the Origami King, Super Mario Maker 2, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Next question comes from Twitter. Twitter user Melly Playful. Her question is, if you could hang out in real life, she actually has 2 questions. First question is, if you could hang out in real life with one character from a game, show, movie, or book, who would you choose? I would have to choose Rick from Rick and Morty, because I would love to go on some of those batshit crazy adventures that he goes on, as well as have access to some of the crazy technology that he comes up with. And plus, he just seems like a fun guy to hang out with because of how batshit crazy he is. Melly Playful's next question is, if you could be a contestant on a game show, which game show would you choose? I would choose Wheel of Fortune because, to be quite honest, that's the only game show that I'm smart enough to be on. That's the only game show that I feel like I could possibly win. Next question comes from Discord, from user Moldy. His question is, are you ever going to do a Wii gallery? Woo! Damn, Moldy. I don't think people want me to publish a gallery full of pictures of my Wii. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people want to see that. So no, I will not be doing a Wii gallery. That's sick. Why would you even ask that? Haha, I'm just kidding, everybody. All joking aside, what he's really asking is, I have a series on the channel called Gamecube Gallery where I review a Gamecube game from my Gamecube library, and he's asking if I would do a similar series, but for the Nintendo Wii. I mean, it's not out of the question. It's something I could possibly do one day. I wouldn't call it Wii Gallery. I would have to come up with some kind of other name for it. But yeah, I mean, possibly. It could happen. I will say this, I do have a Wii video coming in the near future, and I think it's actually going to be the first Nintendo Wii video that I've ever done on the channel, so that should be interesting. Next question comes from the YouTube community page, and it comes from Mr. Pitts, and his question is, yeah, it's 2 questions actually. Did you get the secret ending to Days Gone? I haven't even beat Days Gone yet. I'm probably like 80% through the game. I just got distracted by another game, so I do need to go back and finish it. So the answer to your question is no. And his second question is, what was your favorite console growing up before you got the GameCube? And that would be the Nintendo 64. Absolutely loved the Nintendo 64. Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap, Blast Corps, Extreme G, so many damn games. Super Mario 64, I think I already said that. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So many amazing Conker's Bad Fur Day. I'm going to stop naming off games, but yeah, dude, the Nintendo 64, I f***ing love the Nintendo 64. Next question comes from my cousin Nathan through Instagram, and his question is, what made you decide to grow such a scruffy goatee, and how much do you regret it? The only thing I regret, Nathan, is having you as a cousin. I'm just kidding. That was mean. I take it back. No, I don't regret it, and I'm not even going to answer your question any further. Next question. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from my good friend Rob at Order42 Show, which, by the way, I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description down below. He has an awesome YouTube channel, and he also does awesome Twitch streams, so be sure and check those out. And his question is, have you been back to see a movie in a theater? If so, what was it? If not, what movie are you looking forward to that will be your first movie back? Well, the answer to your first question is no, I've not been to a movie theater since the pandemic started. But the next movie that I will probably be watching in a movie theater, which will be the first movie that brings me back to a movie theater, is the Game Chasers movie. Because, you know, of course, I've talked about many times, I was able to be on the set of the Game Chasers movie for 4 days, hang out with Billy and Jay, hang out with all the Game Chasers crew, hang out with the cast and crew of the movie, help with the movie, and I'm very excited for the movie, not just because I helped with the movie, but also because I legitimately think the movie is going to be good, especially based on what I saw while I was on the set, what I saw being filmed, that sort of thing. So yeah, and of course I will be going to the premiere of the Game Chasers movie, which hopefully will be sometime this summer. I think Billy's shooting for this summer, but don't quote me on that. But that's probably going to be my first movie back, and I am very excited. The next question comes from Twitter, and it comes from Twitter user Reagan Wriggles. And his question is, any tips for someone who has been making videos for almost 6 years? I've been doing all of my stuff that has visuals with my phones and audio only on my PlayStation 4 and doing stuff that I love to make that I would like to see. Thanks in advance. So look, I'm no expert. I mean, I'm really not. I'm not an expert. But I would say, you know, if I could give you some tips, I would say ask yourself, what do you want out of YouTube? Is your YouTube channel simply as a hobby? You know, something to do, something fun to do to get your voice out there? Or is it something that you want to grow? Do you want to grow your YouTube channel? And that's really all you know, that's kind of your main goal. Or is it a combination of the two? A hobby, but you also want to grow the channel. Something you like doing, something that's fun, but something that you also want to grow, which is where I fall. If I had to give you any tips, I would say never stop learning. Constantly be trying to learn something new, whether it's learning more about using a camera, whether it's learning more about videography, more about lighting, more about audio, more about editing. I would recommend learning as much as you possibly can. And the other thing that I would say is always watch your video from an unbiased perspective. And what I mean by that is be honest with yourself when you watch your videos. Watch your videos and be critical of your own videos. Don't lie to yourself. If you see something in your video that you could make better, something that you could improve upon, tell yourself that and try to improve on it. And the last thing I would say is, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the first two things, constantly try to find ways to improve your content. Even if it's something tiny, try to find something. Every video you put out, you should try to be pushing forward in some way with some small improvement. And like I said, even if it's tiny, those tiny improvements are going to add up over time. But again, I'm no expert, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Next question comes from Twitter from my good friends and fellow YouTubers, Retro Rivals. That's Scott and Jen from Retro Rivals. They have an awesome YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. Highly encourage you to go check that out. And this question comes from Jen from Retro Rivals. And her question is, YouTube is not easy. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and commitment. If you could share some advice for gaming channels starting out, what would you say are the 3 most important key factors to success? and what are the 3 factors that are not as important or can wait. Now again, like I said earlier for the question from Regan Wriggles, I am no expert, okay? I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I will say this, I have learned a thing or two. I've been doing YouTube for 2.5 years now, so, well, almost 2.5 years. So I feel like I've gained quite a bit of knowledge, but again, I'm no expert. So take everything I say with just a littlest grain of salt. But let me go ahead and go through this list. So the 3 most important things that I would say to focus on first, number 1, your content and on-screen / on audio presence in case you do audio only stuff. You really want to make sure that you get that content down, make your content as engaging as possible, have as good of an on-screen presence as you possibly can. And these things can take time for some people. It took me months and months and months before I got comfortable in front of a camera and developed what I consider to be an okay on-screen presence. It took a while. It took a while. I was very, very nervous and uncomfortable in front of a camera. And it also took a while for my content to evolve to what I would consider quality content. But those are the things that I would focus on first. The next thing I would focus on is networking. You gotta network in YouTube. You have to network with fellow YouTubers. You have to network on social media. Unfortunately, because I hate social media, I really do, but nowadays it is extremely hard to make a successful YouTube channel if you don't get on at least a few of the big social media channels, social media platforms to promote your videos and network with other YouTubers. It's very difficult. So networking is very important. Next thing I would say is focus on your audio first and your lighting second, but I'm lumping those 2 things together. Having good audio is very, very important. Nothing will turn somebody off of your videos quicker than bad audio. So you really want to learn as much as you can about audio and try to invest in at least a somewhat decent microphone. I mean, there's microphones you can get that are cheap or that are really good if you know how to do audio properly, and there's plenty of resources online to learn this. And also having proper lighting is very, very, very important, because if you have good lighting, if you use proper lighting techniques, you can make even cheap cameras look really, really high quality. So I would definitely look into 3-point lighting. That's what I would look into and learn how to do. And you can do 3-point lighting without investing in a bunch of expensive lighting kits. You can kind of, you can wing it to a degree and have decent 3-point lighting. The 3 things that I would consider not as important or can wait. First thing I would say is learning advanced editing skills. You can make a good YouTube video with simple editing skills, or in some cases, some people can make YouTube videos without editing at all, which is very impressive. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can get by with basic editing skills, and you can learn more advanced editing skills as you go along. Second thing is something similar, advanced videography skills. You don't have to have advanced videography skills to make a quality YouTube video. Again, that's something that you can learn as you go along. You can acquire that knowledge as you go along. And the third thing is upgrading to more expensive equipment. You don't have to have a bunch of crazy ass expensive equipment to make a quality YouTube video. If you start to become successful, or if you have the money and you want to invest in better equipment later on down the road, that's cool, but it's not necessary. It can wait. It's not as important as some of the other things. A couple of questions from my good friend Carl through Instagram user Retro Gaming Zone. He has a huge Instagram account with, I think, over 25,000 followers now. A lot of retro game content. He sells games on there. I recommend checking it out. His first question is Guitar Hero or Rock Band? Guitar Hero, dude. I've never played Rock Band before in my life, but I loved me some f***ing Guitar Hero. I played the shit out of Guitar Hero before and after I learned how to play the guitar. Love Guitar Hero. His second question is, what are your thoughts on game variants like Metroid versus Metroid with Prime 2 bonus disc? Do you collect variants or do you have any? Generally, I don't care about gaming variants, generally. But when it comes to the Gamecube collection, that's the console that I do collect variants for, because I'm crazy when it comes to collecting Gamecube. I need help. Please send help. I'm addicted, and it's honestly concerning. and taking a toll on my health. Okay, not really, but I am addicted. That part is true. But yeah, really the only console I care about collecting variants for is the GameCube. Everything else, I just don't really care. And Retro Gaming Zone's last question is, would you ever grow a handlebar mustache? No. Next question. Next question comes from Twitter from my friend Patrick Hickey Jr. Twitter username ReviewFixPat. And he runs an awesome website. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. And he has also wrote several amazing books where he interviews different gaming developers and talks about the games that they've created, and I highly recommend checking that out as well. I'll leave a link to that website in the description down below as well if you want to purchase any of his books. His question is, best GameCube fighter not made by Nintendo? I would have to say Soul Calibur 2. Soul Calibur 2 is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. I also have some amazing memories with that game with my deceased brother. Me and him used to play the hell out of that game after I got off work at Steak and Shake. After a long shift, I would go over to his house and we would play it till like 3 in the morning. Really good times. And of course, you can play as Link, and Link's character is a badass in that game. What's not to love? Next question comes from the YouTube community page, and it comes from Raji Retro Gamer. His question is there a retro system? He has 2 questions, I'm sorry. Is there a retro system you still haven't got, maybe never had, but would like to add to your collection? And if so, why? The answer to that would be the TurboGrafx 16. I did briefly have a TurboGrafx 16 for a couple of days, but unfortunately I had to sell it, which I kind of regret. At any rate, that's a console that I never really had. I would love to have a TurboGrafx 16 and start collecting the games for it, dig into the library. The problem is the games for that console are stupidly expensive. His next question is, what are the plans for your channel? Any new series planned? Enjoying the content this far? Keep the vids coming. Thank you, I really appreciate that. My plans for the channel are exactly what I'm doing as of May, which is dropping down to 1 video per week, but we're making that 1 video super high quality, increasing the production values, all that good stuff. The only series that I really am continuing to do is the GameCube Gallery series, and as well, also I'll keep doing game room tours as I'm able to. Those are few and far between, but I do have 2 game room tours coming up in the near future. But I mean, as far as plans for the channel, I'm just gonna keep trying to make my content as interesting as I can and coming up with new ideas and try to keep the quality going up. Next question comes from Twitter. It comes from Twitter user @Shauna_Nah. Her question is, what other hobbies and things do you like aside from video games? I love playing the guitar. I've been playing the guitar since I was 16 years old. Now, as of late, I haven't had much time to play the guitar, so I'm very much out of practice. But I do love playing the guitar and writing my own music and all that good stuff. I've got a lot of my own music that I've written, instrumental only, because I can't sing worth a shit. Although I'd like to learn one day. Anyway, some of my other hobbies, I like to work out. I've started working out a lot the last few months, trying to get in better shape. I like to hike, pretty much anything outdoors. I love to hike, you know, go bike riding, all that good stuff, play tennis. I like playing tennis, even though I suck at it and I still don't even know how to properly play tennis to this day. But I just like hitting the ball back and forth with somebody. I don't care about all the technical rules of tennis. I just like hitting a damn ball back and forth. I also have started getting into screenwriting recently, so I'm working on a screenplay for a short film that I hope to be able to shoot this year. And I've also started getting into traveling more, mainly because of the YouTube channel. So I've gotten more into kind of traveling around the different places and meeting up with some of the friends that I've met online. A lot of fun. Next question comes from Twitter, and it comes from Telesplash Gaming, who also has an awesome YouTube channel that I will link to in the description down below. And his question is, what is your favorite thing in your gaming room and why? And it's going to be the same answer as what I answered one of Doug's questions with, and that is the Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller for the GameCube, sealed in its packaging. And Chris from Telesplash Gaming, I know you can relate to this because I know that you have the PlayStation 2 version of the Resident Evil 4 GameCube controller. So I'm sure you can relate. It's pretty damn cool, and it's definitely something that's cool to show people when they come into the game room for the first time. So it's probably one of my favorite things in the game room. Next question comes from YouTube, and it comes from the Mighty Me Sprit. And his question is, how do you usually pick which games you play and which ones have great material for a video? For example, Gamecube gallery, collection videos, etc. You know, to be honest with you, there's really no rhyme or reason to which games I decide to play and which games I decide to make videos on. As far as games I decide to play, it's really just what catches my eye, or what game on my backlog that I've been wanting to play for a while. So there's really, it's kind of random, to be honest with you. Like, for example, right now I'm playing We Happy Few on the Xbox Series X through Game Pass, because that's a game I've been intrigued with for a long time, ever since it came out. And I saw it on Game Pass, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to play that. And I'm glad I did, because I'm liking the game so far. As far as which games I pick that make good content, again, I mean, yeah, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes there is. When it comes to Gamecube Gallery, it's really just what Gamecube game catches my eye that I'd like to make a video on for Gamecube Gallery. Sometimes it's as simple as that, or sometimes somebody will recommend one. For example, Disney's Tarzan Untamed. My nephew/editor recommended that. Well, he didn't recommend it. He picked it. And so I picked that game. So it's just a number of different reasons. The next question comes from Twitter, and it comes from Twitter user @TheGameChaps. Their question is very simple. How do you like your eggs? Scrambled, fried, poached, or hard-boiled? I like to crack the egg on my teeth and just crack the raw egg right into my mouth. Just right into my mouth, and just swallow the whole fucking thing. The whole slimy egg. That's how I like to eat eggs.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Now, in all seriousness, my favorite way to eat eggs is probably scrambled. Although I do like eating them over hard as well, but not as much as scrambled. Scrambled eggs are the way to go, in my opinion. Next up, coming from Twitter, from Trista Bites, who also has an awesome YouTube channel, and she does some amazing Twitch streams. I'll leave a link to all that in the description down below. She was also on an episode of the podcast, if you want to check that out. She has a couple of different questions. What is it about retro gaming that keeps you playing old games? It's a couple of different things. Obviously, nostalgia. You know, reliving the memories that I had when I was a kid, which I can relive those memories when I play some of these games. Another thing is, a lot of these retro games are timeless. A lot of them never get old. A lot of them have aged very, very, very well, like Super Mario Bros. 3, for example. So they're always fun to go back and play. Always. It never fails. And then I would say the third reason is there are a shitload of retro games that I've never played. You know, there's several consoles with libraries, several retro consoles with libraries I haven't had a chance to dig into yet. So all of these things combined keep me coming back to retro games. But I would say the number one reason out of all those things I just said is to relive memories. And because those games are timeless and they really have aged very well. Trista Bites' next question is, how did you pick your channel name? I'm afraid that's not a very exciting answer, unfortunately. So it's really broken up into three elements: Retro, Wolf, and 88. Retro, for obvious reasons. I love retro games. I love all things retro. So there's that, right? Which, I mean, retro's in a lot of gaming YouTubers' names, so that part's not very original. Wolf is because that is my last name, so decided to throw that in the channel name. And then 88's the year I was born, so that's pretty much it. I wish it was more exciting. I wish I had a better story to tell you, but I don't. And Trista Bites' last question is, pineapple on pizza? No. I don't really like pineapple. I'm not much of a pineapple person. I do like pineapple juice. I can drink pineapple juice all day long, but I don't like eating pineapple. I think it's a texture thing. I think the texture of pineapple bothers me. But I don't really like pineapple on pizza. Now, can I eat pineapple on pizza? Sure, I can. You know, I can eat a Hawaiian. I mean, I love pizza so much I can pretty much eat any kind of pizza, to be honest. But it's it's going to be my last choice. You know, I'm not crazy about it. So, pineapple on pizza? Well, maybe not thumbs down. Maybe thumbs sideways for pineapple on pizza.
It's just not my thing. And the last question comes from Twitter. Comes from Twitter user Virusy. I still don't know the proper way to pronounce your name, your YouTube channel name. But he also has a YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. He also runs a website called Rotten Rentals. If you want to check that out, I'll leave that in the description as well. And he was also on an episode of the podcast, and he is a friend of mine. So Virusy's question is, are the GameCube Monkey Ball games the games that you've completed the most? If so, how many times have you done so? If not, which games have you beaten, or which game have you beaten the most and how many times? But the answer to your question is Resident Evil 4. I believe I've probably beat Resident Evil 4 somewhere between 15 and 20 times, I would say. I've kind of lost some of the knowledge because it's been a while since I beat it. But I used to be basically a walking player's guide for Resident Evil 4 because I beat it so damn much. Second place, if I had to pick a second game, I would probably say Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, maybe. I've beat that game several times. Super Mario Bros. 3 I've beat several times. But definitely the most is Resident Evil 4. Woo! That was a long Q&A. That was a long video. I'm sorry for that. But that's just how these Q&As go. It takes time to answer all of these questions. But I enjoy answering them, and I want to thank everybody that submitted a question for today's Q&A. They were all great questions, and I enjoyed answering every single one of them. And of course, if you have additional questions, you can throw those in the comments down below. If you stuck through to the end of this video, you're awesome. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for helping me reach 2,000 subscribers. Next major goal is 5,000, and I'll probably do another Q&A when I hit that goal. Until then, everybody, have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. Keep playing games and having a good time. I'll catch you in the next video. Later.
If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. You're freaking awesome. And if you enjoyed it, hit that like button, share it with your friends and family. Check out all the social media links in the description down below. And if you want to see more RetroWolf88 videos, here's a couple more for you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go play some more video games. Later.